Goedemiddag, welkom bij de webinar Blended Analytics. Tijdens deze webinar gaan we u uitleggen hoe u, dankzij Evolven en haar innovatieve benadering, grip houdt op de stabiliteit van uw ICT. Mijn naam is Edwin Kooistra, ik ben Operation Solution Manager binnen Ymor en in het verleden actief binnen zowel operationele als commerciële rollen. En op dit moment ben ik volledig gefocust op de nieuwe benadering van Evolven en de introductie hiervan binnen zowel Ymor, onze eigen organisatie, als ook binnen de Nederlandse markt. Ik breng deze webinar samen met Sascha Gillenson. We doen dit omdat Sascha de man is achter de visie en het product van Evolven. En Sascha is een expert, een guru in Operation Analytics en Operational Excellence. Voordat hij Evolven gestart is met Evolven, heeft hij 13 jaar bij Mercury Interactive gewerkt. En totdat Mercury werd overgenomen door HP, waren ze de wereldwijde marktleider op het gebied van quality en quality assurance. Als vice-president was Sascha verantwoordelijk voor de visie en de doorontwikkeling van diverse productlijnen. Sascha komt uit Letland en zijn deel zal daarom in het Engels zijn. De rest van de webinar zal in het Nederlands zijn. Sascha, very good to have you here with us today. Voordat ik het woord ga geven aan Sascha en zijn deel over Evolven, zal ik eerst een korte introductie doen over Ymor met de aanleiding voor dit initiatief. Na het deel van Sascha zal ik het weer overnemen met een korte live demonstratie van Evolven, waarna er ruimte is om vragen te beantwoorden. Vragen kunnen zowel tijdens de presentatie en de demo gesteld worden als achteraf. En dit kan via de chatfunctionaliteit van de GoToWebinar. Zoals gezegd, eerst een korte introductie van Ymor en de aanleiding tot dit initiatief. Ymor is gevestigd in Utrecht, in Papendorp. En wij zijn gespecialiseerd in het creëren van gebruikersgeluk. We doen dit al ruim 12 jaar en inmiddels met meer dan 90 mensen. Volgens ons wordt het geluk van gebruikers in hoge mate bepaald door de kwaliteit en de mate van stabiliteit die gebruikers ervaren. Denk hierbij bijvoorbeeld aan de beschikbaarheid en de performance. In de benadering van Ymor staat de gebruiker centraal. Vanuit het perspectief van de gebruiker zijn we in staat om end-to-end inzicht te verkrijgen in de kwaliteit die gebruikers ervaren. Tot op heden doen we dit met name door inzet van applicatie performance management software, ook wel APM software genoemd. Met APM software ben je in staat om van een end-to-end inzicht middels diagnostiek in te zoomen tot op codeniveau. De grote kracht van Ymor zit erin dat wij deze software kunnen combineren met onze specialistische kennis en bewezen methodieken om deze geavanceerde software maximaal uit te nutten ten behoeve van onze klant. De belangrijkste resultaten die we hiermee bereiken zijn minder incidenten, kortere oplostijden en een stabielere performance. Kortom, gebruikersgeluk. De volgende slide geeft een selectie van onze klanten weer. En deze klanten bevinden zich eigenlijk allemaal in de top 500, verspreid over verschillende industrieën. En deze organisaties hebben in ieder geval 2 dingen met elkaar gemeen. Het eerste wat ze met elkaar gemeen hebben is een grote afhankelijkheid in ICT. Dit zie je terug, met name wanneer de IT het niet doet. Denk bijvoorbeeld aan de zorg, waarbij een arts op cruciale momenten niet bij zijn patiëntgegevens kan. Of denk aan callcenters van telecombedrijven of energiebedrijven, die klanten niet kunnen bedienen, omdat ze niet bij hun systemen kunnen. Maar denk ook aan banken, zoals met internetbankieren, en de impact daarvan op het moment dat dit niet beschikbaar is. De tweede gemene delen van deze organisaties is een hoge mate van complexiteit van IT. En die complexiteit die zit er met name in technologie, organisatie, maar vooral ook door de hoge mate van verandering, de dynamiek. Dit laatste neemt enorm toe door ontwikkelingen en trends zoals agile en continuous delivery. In plaats van één grote business release per maand zie je dat organisaties nu veelal kleinere releases, meerdere kleinere releases per dag hebben. Deze complexiteit leidt vaak tot instabiliteit. Denk bijvoorbeeld aan verminderde beschikbaarheid of aan performance incidenten. Op deze slide is van dit laatste een voorbeeld te zien, gemeten met onze eigen iMonitor dienst. Wat we hier zien is de performance die een gebruiker ervaart op een IT-keten. In dit geval de performance uitgedrukt in responstijden voor het openen van een factuur van een klant. Wat we hier zien is dat het openen van deze factuur continu onder de 4 seconden ligt, maar vanaf een bepaald moment verdubbelt en doorstijgt tot aan bijna 8 seconden. Uiteraard willen we dit incident zo snel mogelijk opgelost hebben om het gebruikersgeluk te herstellen. De eerste vraag die we daarom, als het goed is, stellen, is de vraag: wat is er veranderd? Wat is er veranderd voorafgaand aan de performanceverslechtering? De tot nu toe bekende middelen, zoals de eerder genoemde APM-producten, APM-software, zijn niet in staat om deze vraag snel en goed te beantwoorden. Hoe Evolven dit wel kan, en nog belangrijker, hoe Evolven ook incidenten kan voorkomen en waarom dit zo belangrijk is voor gebruikersgeluk, gaat Sascha ons nu vertellen. Sascha, the floor is yours.
Incidents and major incidents, and you just continue to resolve them. And the question is, why does it happen? In spite of all this investment, why do we still have a problem? And the answer is in this quote, actually, from ex-Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld. It was laughed a lot at, and it's pretty convoluted quote, but the essence is very smart. It says that the most dangerous things that cause most of problems are unknown, things we even don't know we don't know. And all these things like unauthorized changes, all the small configuration parameters that we're not aware of, all the manual updates, the mistakes that happen, we just even don't suspect they will happen. They are responsible for all these issues that we're dealing with. I mean, like just recently we had an amazing example, New York Stock Exchange going down for 3 hours. Why? Because the wrong firmware was updated on one of the infrastructure devices without people realizing that it's actually wrong configuration to update this firmware. I mean, like nobody actually knows that there could be an impact. So how do we deal today with these unknowns? And the common best practice we see across industry is that you have smart people, and as many of them as you can get in the room or on a conference bridge, so that they try to brainstorm and look for the root cause of the issue. Each of them looks at their piece of information, being this a particular tool or particular piece of the environment, and mostly focusing on the symptoms. I see the CPU goes up, that end user response slows down, but not really being able to look at the true root causes. All this process happens manually, and in the end it depends on the experience and expertise of these people to execute this mental leap from the symptom to the root cause. The result of this practice is that there are still too many service incidents. The troubleshooting and time to repair takes too long. And while these guys are very smart, they're also expensive, and this kind of all the king's horses response is pretty wasteful, having them on each call. And as a result, IT is trapped in a reactive firefighting loop where there is an alert, we jump on this alert, we brainstorm, we find the root cause, we fix it, we get a new alert, and go and go and go and go. And that's, the behavior that is also recognized and encouraged by today's environment. But we believe, and as Edwin has mentioned, that there is a way to get out of this vicious circle, to switch to more proactive approach, to being able to shorten this incident investigation time and actually prevent these incidents at all. And that's, we do this with the blended analytics. So, what does this blended analytics mean? And the fact is that, we take various relevant data sources, the symptoms indicating the problems, the changes that happen in the environment that are the true root cause of everything that actually happens, all the problems happen in your operations. We put it into the context, and then we actually use powerful analytics to correlate symptoms to changes to context, and to estimate the risk and probability of these changes, these true root causes, being a root cause of incident we're investigating, or a potential root cause of a potential issue. Like nothing happened, but we can predict that there could be, there could be an issue. And obviously, if you know what changed, if you can map these changes, as root causes to the symptoms, and if you can predict future issues looking at the changes, you will have less issues, faster resolution, more efficiency. So what does it mean that we look at all the different relevant data sources? So we look, here you can see a screenshot of our product, and Edwin will show the more detailed, actual, live product demo. But just, to explain. Here we see that at the top, the contextual information, that provides the context of all the activities happening in your environment. And it's automated deployment, it's manual deployment, it's all the service requests implemented in your environment. And then, there are changes, the true root causes of the problems that we collect directly. Our technology collects this information about the changes that happen in your environment. And then at the bottom, you see the symptoms, all these alerts and errors, and events that indicate some problems in the health of your system. And that's, where, and Edwin was showing this, that's, where our partnership with Ymor and integration with their technology is so essential, because this information about the symptoms, that's the rich information that iMonitor is actually providing. Just by putting, all these events, what were the activities, what were the changes as a result of these activities, and what were the resulting symptoms, our customers already saw that just putting this on the same timeline, it paints a very clear picture. You know what happens in your environment. So the information can come from a variety of different sources. You see the contextual information come from service desk, deployment automation tools, CMDB, and symptoms can come from APM and log analysis tools. And I mentioned, it's various technologies, and we have very tight integration with iMonitor as one of those technologies. And the changes, that's a very essential part. This is a very unique piece that frequently is missing in analysis. That's something that Evolven collects on our own. We scan the environment. We have a technology that scans the environment, collecting information about the changes in configuration, in application, in data, in capacity, and so on. So, as I mentioned, change is a critical and frequently overlooked piece of any root cause analysis. And it's frequently overlooked because it's very difficult to get this information. What are the actual changes? What happened in my environment? And today, we are the only vendor that collects and correlates and analyzes all the changes at the most granular level in the end-to-end environment, from application down to the infrastructure. And if you look at all the different types of the changes, the configuration changes that can cause, configuration environment issues, the code changes that can introduce, new defects and so on, capacity changes that, that can create insufficient resources, can cause that insufficient resources will lead to system failures. The data changes, like, for example, you have some unexpected data inputs or structure, or some changes in the size of data that will impact your application. So all these changes can explain 95% of all the issues. The rest, this 5%, is hardware failure. All the rest is explained by changes. Now, if that's the case, And we can actually look at the change as soon as we detect it, and we can analyze it and estimate its risk with the help of our analytics. If there is a high risk change, we can actually look at it and fix it before there is an incident. Because typically, it's not like you make a change and 5 seconds after that you have a problem. Typically, there is a time lag. You have minutes and frequently hours and sometimes days before the incident happens as a result of the change. So you have time to be proactive. You can actually track and analyze changes before they cause the incident. And even if there is an incident, still, because you have all the information, as soon as you know about this incident, you can leverage this information for root cause analysis. So you can be much, much faster than this usual war room or a major incident management process practice. And it's very essential to have this detailed information about the changes in the environment, because as we said, there are known unknowns, there are known things that can hurt us the most. So we will collect information from the entire environment: application, middleware, databases, operating system, infrastructure components, network, storage. We'll get to most granular level. When I speak about most granular level, that means at the level of down to individual configuration parameter, at the attributes of the manifest of your jar file, and so on and so on. We'll collect this information close to real time. We'll scan the environment. It can be scanned every few minutes, every 15 minutes, depending on the schedule and on the dynamics of your environment. And it will go across the multiple types of the changes, not just looking at only application, only code, or only configuration, but actually looking at all the possible reasons, all the possible root causes, all the possible changes that could be a root cause of the issue. Now, it can be a lot of information. It's practically impossible to crunch all this external data and the data collected about the changes collected by Evolven. That's why we have the analytics. And the analytics have two roles. One role is actually to clean and correlate the data. Because as data comes from all these different external sources, even internally, you need to reduce the noise. There's a lot of irrelevant data. You want to group similar information together to make analysis more efficient. You want to normalize the data so that it will be in the same language. And then once it is the same language, you can actually correlate the data so that you can establish the connection. You can say, oh, I see alert coming from my monitor. And by the way, it looks related to these changes that we did, a couple of hours ago. And by the way, these changes were caused by this authorized service request that was approved by this person and executed by this person. Like, this information becomes actionable. But on top of it, the analytics will calculate the risk score for each change. So the risk score is essentially a probability that this particular correlated change is the root cause of the problem you are investigating. So we'll look at the risk scores, based on different attributes like how consistent are my changes, how frequent they are, how impactful they are in terms like what is the typical impact of these changes on the environment. We'll also apply machine learning to identify anomalies in the changes, like, for example, time anomaly. If we see that operating system updates typically happen every week overnight as part of the overnight maintenance, if we see suddenly a hotfix on Windows, let's say, applied in the middle of the day, it's an emergency patch. And as an emergency patch, it will have much higher risk than regular maintenance. Or, we'll look at, there is a change, let's say in configuration, from, the particular parameter is changed from 1 to 10. But we know that it always changes from 1 to 2 or from 1 to 3. So 10 is really kind of radical change. So it obviously has higher risks than the rest of the changes. So using all this information, as well as the knowledge base we provide out of the box, and also the feedback from your subject matter experts to fine-tune analysis, we can estimate the risk, the probability of a change being a root cause of the issue you are investigating, or being a future cause of future potential issue. So how is this technology applied in customer environments? I mean, there is a variety of scenarios, where people are using this for data center consolidation and migration, for validating application rationalization, for management of virtual environments, for migration to cloud, and so on and so on. But we see that all these different scenarios always, kind of lead to 4 key use cases, 4 key scenarios. One is obvious: accelerate troubleshooting. I have an issue, I want to know what changed, and I want to correlate automatically symptoms and changes and context. And I want to analyze risk to zoom in on those changes that are, most probable root cause of the issue. But then, the organizations understand that, all these changes, all this information was available well before the incident has happened. So actually, responding to this information, it would be possible to prevent them, to prevent the issues. And therefore, they start to use a more proactive approach by, for example, using Evolven to alert IT operations teams on high-risk changes, before they cause the incident, alert them on anomalies or bad patterns recognized by our analytics, to validate not just changes over time, but also consistency across environment, that, the same kind of capacity requirements, configuration status, application versions, they are consistent, across production, disaster recovery, clustered servers, load balance environments, and so on. Even earlier, when the change goes directly into your environment, into production, you already can, validate that, and analyze this change to ensure that it will not cause a problem. For example, are all the prerequisites in place? If I update my application, is my infrastructure ready for this update? I want to know what was released, and if the content of the release is exactly as it was tested in pre-production environment. And if there is a post-release stability issue, I want to correlate it quickly to the changes in the release. And the last but not least is actually ability to automate the audit processes. So there's a side effect. We have information about the changes. We know which changes happened, which are unauthorized changes, high-risk changes, and we know about the actual granular changes that happen in the environment. So having this information, you can demonstrate change controls to any authority, or internal or external audit out of the box. You don't need to go and manually produce reports and everything. All the information is available in Evolven. So variety of teams can benefit from Evolven, but you can see that, I would say the key beneficiaries of Evolven are production support, where we help them to investigate incidents, operation environment managers, where we can actually help them to control environment, to preempt the issues, and to drive, consistency in their environment. DevOps organization, where we close feedback loop from operations to development, analyzing releases, analyzing deployments. But then everyone, incident managers, application teams, testing teams, configuration management teams, CMDB, like everyone gets a benefit. All these use cases apply to a variety of organizations. But the kind of where it starts, where who typically owns it, there's a production support, operations, environment management, DevOps. These are the kind of the owners, and the rest are the users of the information provided by Evolven. So to summarize, what's so special about Evolven? A is that we look as a cross-silo data. We have information we collect on our own, but we can blend this information with external data sources that you already have. But still, when we blend it, and we correlate it back to the change, because the change is the true root cause of the problem. And to pick, the right information, not to spend time, going through the noise and everything. That's, why the analytics is so important, and that's, the type of analytics we provide. And the last, it's not a functional differentiation, but very important is the results are very quick. The technical setup is really, it goes on smaller environments from hours to days on larger environments. And it's more about you being ready for a new approach that will help you to investigate incidents faster, or even to be proactive. It's a different type of process than being proactive. But the implementation itself, getting from zero to meaningful, valuable insights from Evolven, is unparalleled. There is no other enterprise tool that will deliver the same speed of the results. With that, Edwin, back to you for the actual live demo.